Deer are in the family Cervidae, with the two major subfamilies being the Cervinae and the Capreolinae. The subfamily Cervinae consists of the muntjac, the elk, the fallow deer, and the chital. The subfamily Capreolinae consists of reindeer, the roe deer, and the moose. Typical characteristics of deer are long and powerful legs, a short stubby tail, and long ears. Deer color ranges from red to brown and can sometimes be a dark chocolate color. Deer molt twice a year, once to put on a winter coat and once to shed the winter coat and put on a summer coat. Deer usually live in herds of females and babies. They have a nesting site where they will sleep, and from there they will have paths that go to and from their favorite feeding sites. The males, however, will not live in the herd and usually live alone, but will come in to have a little fun and mate with the females. All male deer have antlers, excluding the water deer, who grows long, tusk-like canines instead. Deer will also shed their antlers once a year to give rise to a bigger and better rack each year. The antlers allow for deer to fight for females without getting stabbed in the face by their opponent's antlers. The bigger the antlers that the male has, the better off he is with mating. Deer with a large set of antlers are said to be the highest on the social pecking order and a prized possession for females and hunters. Deer are very agile animals that can jump and swim very well. So good luck trying to keep a deer out of an area that it really wants to be in. A fence 10 feet tall will usually do the trick, but if the deer really wants to be inside of that fence, it will jump over. Here at Cal Poly, when you see a deer, you are most likely seeing the black-tailed deer, which is easily identified by the tail that is all black on top. These deer roam the canyons and hillsides, grazing on small bushes and grass. You will often see their heart-shaped hoof prints and their round, small scat. Fun fact, baby deer have spots and lack scent so that they can hide from predators very easily. Deer are implicated in 58% of losses in field crops and 33% of losses in fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Nationally, they account for $2 billion in losses annually, $100 million of which is losses in agriculture. Out of the USDA's statistics for damages by specific interface, agriculture represents 52% of losses due to deer annually, and nearly 20% of losses due to deer are in the urban interface with structures and fencing. Deer often feed during dusk and dawn and try to avoid contact with people as much as possible. Though according to UCIPM, deer may even feed in suburban areas once they have been in enough contact with people. As far as deer browsing goes, deer will feed on many crops that have foliage. Many people will plant plants that are desirable for a garden, such as shrubs, roses, flowers, and fruit trees. Deer browsing damage is when the deer chew through the foliage of these plants. In young fruit and nut trees, deer browsing can stunt or delay the growth of these young trees. In late summer and early fall, male deer will rub their antlers against trees to remove and shed their velvet. The velvet refers to the layer of skin that is present on deer antlers while they are growing. For larger and fully mature trees, the rubbing is of very little consequence. However, for the younger and newer trees, this rubbing can damage the tree itself and can even prevent tree growth if the deer rub hard enough against it. Deer also often collide with vehicles. Deer cause $1.1 billion in damages in car collisions, and about 1.5 million deer-to-car collisions happen each year within the United States. In this instance of damage, neither you nor the deer wins. Most often, cars get severely damaged or even totaled, and then you have to sort through insurance and get a rental car. Everyone loses. Deer cause a lot of damage indirectly as well. Deer carry the bacteria Coxiella burnetii, which causes Q fever. This bacteria is especially abundant when deer give birth. Deer also can host ticks, which can be hosts to Lyme disease. We have learned that deer are a serious vertebrate pest mammal that, if not controlled, can cause severe damage and destroy entire crops. Management of deer is very important. Some management practices include fencing, repellents, and shooting, fencing being the most effective. Various types of repellents are used to get rid of deer, including scaring devices, over-the-counter repellent sprays, powders, and also some home remedies. There are many online home recipes for deer repellent. For example, rotten egg spray and red hot chili pepper spray. The company Deer Out sells a 2-gallon bottle of not-so-cheap repellent for $200. They claim that it will keep deer out for up to 3 to 4 months. Some of the scaring devices involve shooting water, making noise, and flashing light devices. As Dr. Headrick has explained, the use of repellents does not work very well on deer, as they will become accustomed to the repellent. It may work once or twice, but over time it will lose its effectiveness. Deer are considered a game animal, so you will need a depredation permit from your local game warden if you want to remove them due to damage to your property or crops. If it is deer season, you are allowed to hunt deer as long as you have a proper license for that hunting zone and deer tags, but shooting is not recommended due to safety concerns, so shooting is rarely an option unless you have gone through proper firearm safety training. The best management solution for deer so far has been exclusion by fencing. There are many different types of fences depending on what you want and where the fence is being placed. The fencing should at least be 6 to 8 feet tall. The high tensile wire fence has a high initial cost, but this fence requires the least amount of maintenance, and thus the cost per foot is the lowest. In areas experiencing persistent and severe deer damage, the fence may be electrified using AC current charged by a solar power battery. Another choice is square mesh fence. This has been used primarily to control damage in orchards. The wire for each of these fences should be buried 1 foot underground. These fences are also effective against coyotes, pigs, and rabbits. Another choice is the V-mesh wire fence, which has been used to control damage by deer to haystacks. V-mesh wires come in heights of 42 inches to 92 inches, with 72 inches being commonly used to control deer. If you want to learn how to build a proper deer fence, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife website contains deer fence designs and how they should be constructed for the best results. Now we have an interview with a local farmer done by Samuel Estrada about deer management and damage tactics.
Okay guys, I'm here with Javier Zamora, owner of JSM Organics. I'm just gonna ask him a few questions about how he deals with deer and if the management he does. First question is, do you have any deer problem? And if you do, how do you manage it?
We do. We have deer. It's not necessarily a problem. You have to know how to deal with this kind of situation. We have to think that we're farming in areas that naturally were part of the deer in this case. So we have to make sure that we provide some of that riparian area for them, so they have a house, or so they don't come into your house where you're farming. So what you do is you try to minimize their area, their outside. In my case, I have lots of riparian area, so I try to make sure that we don't really interfere with their habitat. We don't go out and do any hunting or anything like that. But around the farm, we actually have to fence it in. Here you see fenced around the hoop houses, so deer is not gonna go through that fence. But maybe later on we'll go to the strawberry field. So all around the field we have to create a fence, not only to keep the deer away, but it's also a food safety regulation issue that we face these days. So the things that works the best for deer, nothing but fencing. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you have any economic problems with deer damage, like damaging one of your profit crops?
So yes, if there's no fencing, like if we go to Little Hill, one of my ranches, all the kale that was planted for winter was eaten by deer. I mean, the entire 3 acres. It's just because I economically, I didn't have the money to fence it in. So when you have a lots of deer around and you don't have the means of facing your perimeter, it is likely that you are just gonna lose. So quite a bit of money.
Yeah, that's unfortunately. So you say you fenced this. Did it cost you a lot of money to do the fencing?
Well, it depends what materials you want to use and how big the area is, and for how long you want the fencing to be in place. So if you own the property and you want to fence it all in, it could cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. But if it's just for something temporary, you can use, some of that ground cover, or maybe some plastic netting with some sort of stakes, either metal or wood, and it was probably to fence the strawberry field, probably about $5,000 in materials plus the labor. So I would assume to cover the entire 20 acres, it was probably a little over $10,000. So it's a little bit of money.
Quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Do you see any trends about deer damage at certain times, like certain times when you plant something, or certain times of the year or the season?
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to know what's going on in their lives. If they're hibernating, or if they're, if it's cold and they're probably are gonna have babies or something. They might not come out as much, but as soon as the babies are born, and maybe springtime, and your strawberries are flowering, that's actually when they come out. So it would probably depends on where you are in the country, but around here, probably this time of the year, it's actually kind of bad because it's winter is gone away almost, and all our strawberries are flowering, and they love that a lot. But the other times, they're still around, and if there is no movement, or there's no people within the field, they come in at night. So during the winter time, when they ate my kales, which is weren't around much, normally when they see people around, they go away. So they do come out during the evening hours or at nighttime.
Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. Here's Javier Zamora, owner of JSM Organics here in Royal Oaks, California. And this is how he manages deer for his farm.
Yeah, if you want to see the stuff that we do, you can follow us on Instagram, JSM Organics, and you'll see what we do. And we're more than happy to have you come out here and see us whenever you need something. We need to educate you. You are our new generations. I'm getting old.
Thanks.